Hello everyone, we are back with the losers finals. We have Team Raindrop and friends fighting against Teams Are Cool.
Alright, let me set up this story. Let me do some story building to our audience and to you, Mr. Cezero. So, we saw a disaster being butchered by a samurai. A newcomer has come to town with his sword, and he's just slashed the stomach open. Oh my god, that might be too...
That's a little brutal.
That's
a little brutal.
There's a lot of imagery going there, but okay, let's make it PG friendly. So he poked their arm and killed them, and now the Zastra from the Pam side has come for revenge.
They want to get that headband. They're the #2 samurai waiting to get that #1 headband.
They're like, you killed our German brothers, we are coming for you.
Now we will kill you. And they're coming with a very similar lineup. They're on Forest, they're on Portal, and they're on Haven. But both sides again deciding to ban out the Forest here.
I mean, my grandma, but the saying goes, if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Yeah. So I find it interesting. So the first time we saw Teams Are Cool play today, we saw them not ban Forest, and then we promptly saw them lose to Forest. So I find it interesting that now this time they're changing their playstyle a little bit. They're banning out the Forest.
It's also a different Forest style. Bear in mind, the first game was Corvo Forest, a slow control list. This time around, it's an aggro Forest, and they want to dodge that Puppet matchup. It is a hell in a cell to go play Puppet versus Brambles Grass, what we used to call. The win rate is incredibly low. And sometimes Basileos will win you games, but the odds of getting Basileos exactly on curve, especially with this build that Disaster chose to go with only 2 Basileos, makes it a little bit more inconsistent to get that blowout.
Akka, we are witnessing the genesis of a legend here. We're going to see somebody make it.
This is the samurai, dude. Look at that. The samurai is facing the Oni. Oni? Yeah, Oni.
The Oni. That is a dangerous looking sword. If somebody walked up to you with that sword, how would you react?
I would raise my arms until take all the cash, just leave me with my clothes.
What if in a completely harmless way they approach you? They just walk up to you and say, hey, do you know where the nearest bus is?
I would tell them...
react?
Yeah, nope. I would tell them, oh, kind sir, I am glad to make your acquaintance. This is the next bus stop. Please do not kill me.
I'm not armed, I promise.
And if you do kill me, make sure I retain my clothes.
Alright, so we have the same matchup we just saw not too long ago. We got Puppets against Tenko Haven. So do you think we're going to be able to see Puppets pull it out this time?
It's going to be rough. This mulligan is even stronger than the last one, right? We have the Blackened Scripture, the Tenko Shrine, even the Delafil, but I think they're going to kick that one. To be fair, for the Puppet side, we do have a stronger play. They didn't have a 3-drop the previous turn. They had to play a Flower Doll on turn 3, something you do not want to do. Interesting,
wow,
they choose to
the whole thing.
Kick the Tenko again. Maybe they're going first and they don't want to keep the Blackened Scripture, but then again, I mean, Tenko Shrine just does so much work with Puppet.
So
all their health just lines up super well against your Tenko Shrine, right? Oh,
once again, getting the Tenko Shrine off the top, just like last time. It's pretty funny.
This is why you mulligan it.
I wonder if there's going to be a Silva this game. See if maybe that can help offset the healing. We saw that end up being a big problem last game.
You know what? I would actually like to see that. I want to see very strong competitor Shadowverse, and that Silva will make this game go crazy, and would see both decks performing the best they could.
No Silva quite yet.
Let's see. Do you have a preference for the 2-drop?
As far as the 2-drops go, I think you're going second is the thing, so you do kind of want to evolve that Paracel. So maybe we have seen Lococo just sit in the hand all game long. Every time we've seen these players opt to like Hamlin their Lococos or hold on to their Lococos. And since you are enticed to evolve that Paracelsus on 4, we might just see the Lococo come down here.
I agree. Paracelsus was one of the best followers to deal with Tenko because it is actually one of the only ways your deck has to create an odd number health. Odd numbers are very strong because obviously Tenko deals damage in multiples of 2. So getting that worth as a 3/3 and getting the Paracelsus as a 4/4 is a good way to block that Tenko play.
Globe of the Starways coming off the top of the deck just in time. That 1-drop hitting the hand turn 2. That's the classic. You look at your hand, you're like, come on, you couldn't have just been just a little bit earlier, please? So
let's see, they're taking their time to decide if they go for the Moriai or the Snow White. Again, I will say this again. Moriai on 3 with a globe makes it even better. So I would like to see that.
and that's exactly what they're going for. Yeah, this Snow White's going to be able to take out whatever 2-drop gets played next turn. Moriai is going to be coming down on a pretty clean turn.
So we discussed this the previous turn. I assume they're going to discuss it again. And I think they'll choose to go for the Lococo. I mean, the only targets Lococo really hits are like the dragons
and Heavenly Knights.
And maybe yes, absolutely, of course, and the Heavenly Knight and Delafil evolved, perhaps, because the normal Delafil, it's not that hard to deal 5 damage sometimes.
The way I see it is you have just as much Lococos and just as much Paracelsus in your deck. But you do have an immediate way to use your Paracelsus, but you don't have an immediate way to use your Lococo. So I think you're incentivized just a little bit more to hold on to that Paracelsus. If you don't play that Lococo, you're going to be holding on to it until at least turn 5.
You also don't have a very strong turn play in your hand at the moment, so getting that Paracelsus to fill that mana so strongly, it's obviously a wise choice, and they go for it.
Yeah, that's what Teams Are Cool decide they want to do.
Definitely taking their time. I assume that we're discussing here. It's like we're playing the game as well as Team HSK. Say we're also discussing the same play, so I assume the players are also doing the same thing. And you'll see, I have yet to see a blunder or a mistake. Absolutely no misplay, no mistakes going on. Execution is flawless. You have 2 players behind you telling you, dude, make sure you trade like that. Make sure you play this one first. Order, draw first. We draw first. Look at that. Yeah, exactly. So they go for the Moriai because it allows them to see more cards rather than just the amulets. And if they go first, Moriai is the best amulet anyway. Might as well Moriai first.
So let me ask you, Aka, is it not a misplay to play your Globe of the Starways first in case you draw a different Moriai and Encomium? And you could just play the other one.
Give less information. That is actually an interesting play. But then again, you now hide the amulet via White Fang, right? So it's like there's mind games upon mind games. This is why this game is so cool. No Silva, yet again.
No Silva, and all you have here is your Automaton Soldier. Automaton Soldier can get in quite a few points of damage if it gets unanswered. And right now there actually isn't an answer to it, but it gets in way more when there is that Silva. And
curious to know why they remember they mulligan the Black Inscription, right? It's one of the best ways to deal with Nicholas and Automaton Knight, especially going first. You can deal with Automaton Knight very well and play one of the 2 drops. And again, this Moriai is going to be so important because I mentioned before, Paracelsus is one of the best ways to deal with Tenko, but Moriai just blocks that. It's so effective.
So they're thinking long and hard about this, but I have a feeling that Automaton is what ends up coming down. The only consideration for not playing the Automaton would be, hey, what if we do draw a Silva? What if we want to rush out the Automaton then?
But in this matchup, are there any targets you like to rush into with the 3-2? Because most of their things are like Snow Whites and Visual Priestesses.
Going over the weak half of a Snow White doesn't feel that bad, but it's not the best either.
Especially because you give them a 2-2 afterward. It's better to actually leave it alive sometimes and try and get a substitution or have more puppets in your hand to deal with it the second half. I expect a White Fang. This is just a very strong hand, and it's quite interesting because I believe they mulligan their entire hand and they still managed to get the same insane curve. This is why this is one of the strongest decks. Why a lot of teams chose to bring it.
Yeah, it's able to just grind out so many decks, and it's got so many powerful tools between Heavenly Knight and just the inevitability that Tenko Shrine provides. Having a deck with inevitability is just something that's so nice to be able to fall back on. Something like your giant chimeras that just 1-2 punch the game out, or your Noahs that just close out the game. Just having a way to end the game after the game stalled out for long enough.
I expect him to snap that Paracelsus. Ooh.
What about that?
Still weaker against Tenko, I believe, especially because the Moriai is popping. If you evolve, Tempo Evolve, you can get heavily punished. I still think it's safer to go for the wide double body.
It's much more stats on the board too.
Both aggressively and defensively. And if you tell me that I can get more stats both ways, I'm sold.
You can get a 4/4, a 3/3 with a ward, and push 3 damage for your troubles. It's not that bad. And if you can even get that roll and potentially have the automaton die to the Moriai there. Make things a little bit better. But if you just go for the Nicholas here, and then the Nicholas dies to the Moriai, you set up that Tenko Shrine way too nicely.
Yeah.
It's too easy for your opponent.
I mean, you have to expect it. They just went globe, BI. They filtered through the deck so hard that it's very likely that they're going to have one of them. Not only that, they full mulligan, which makes you believe that they were looking for it, which makes it even higher chances to get it on 5. So it's gonna be difficult. And not only that, the ward also interesting. I was gonna say the ward stops your opponent from evolving into that 4. I actually don't like this play too much, because one of the strongest things you can do as a Tenko deck is to evolve, kill the highest health follower, and then just next turn you can Tenko. Look at this. They can go Lorena instead, right? And then save the Tenko for the next turn. And just deal with the highest health follower, keep the health minimum, and then set up a strong Tenko.
You're not under too much pressure to actually have to get the Tenkos out quite yet. And if you do get the Tenkos out right now, you're really risking taking a lot of damage.
On the other hand, there was no Silva active, so maybe they're thinking that they can take that out, that damage.
But what do you do if your opponent just does play a Silva next turn? Then you're taking so much damage.
True. It's interesting. It's always interesting to see these decisions. Paracelsus is definitely one of the strongest cards to stop with this Moriai on 3 play.
I find it interesting that they ended up not playing the guard form golem and just going for the flower doll. Flower doll ended up taking the shot from that Moriai, so you could say they saved their guard form golem by doing that.
Yeah, technically it's true. I mean, you never know. I guess that they were thinking, since one of our bodies is gonna die, might as well present the least valuable body and hope to get that 33% chance, and it actually ended up working, so not bad.
This is very interesting. Setting up the Snow White instead. No real reason to. You didn't have to take the Lorena's Iron Fist. Setting up the Holy Water lets you go play your Tenko Shrine and the Holy Water, and you know that Holy Water has a pretty high chance of killing off the Automaton Soul.
Yeah, not only that, Snow White is very flexible. She helps you pick up those annoying followers. Sometimes they play like the 2-1 Amelan, and the Tenko hits that, you don't feel really good. But this way, Snow Whites can actually help deal with that. Interesting order to trade.
I would have been interested in possibly seeing an Evo face there, but
they're opting to spend their puppet.
Mm-hmm.
Sure about that, especially having that Amelan on the hand. But it's definitely interesting to keep their automaton and push that 3-face damage. Cannot blame that.
Lloyd does a good job here protecting the automaton.
And you're still expecting a Tenko. Just because your opponent didn't play it on 5 does not mean they don't have it. Maybe they just saw a better play instead.
And this is a very well-timed De La Phil off the top. I have a feeling it's going to be De La Phil here. It lines up pretty nicely against that Lloyd. It is your last evolve, though, if you do decide to evolve it.
I believe that's what they're thinking about. Also, the fact that, again, Tenko becomes a bit worse the longer the game goes, and you know they have a Golem on their hand, which means they have a lot of stat lines to play. Basileus is also an option. The Silva Ambush is an option. The Spinaria is not be played yet. So you definitely expect some bombs to hit the board.
Might see something like De La Phil pass and just hold on to that Evo. But no, they're going to end up just opting to heal just a bit. Getting that Themis will be pretty helpful in a couple turns. Not quite yet.
They actually had a 75% chance to also kill that automaton, so they wisely choose to go for it, and they got room.
Yeah, the odds are in your favor. You might as well take them, right?
Yep, absolutely. This is still a very annoying board. Notice teams are cool. They're keeping track of their odd numbers, but wow, what two top decks to get other
that
than
was
that?
Great. Gets a black inscriptor. Oh, not even going for that.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, this is fine. Why go for it when you can clear off the whole board? If you go for the Tenko Shrine plus the black inscriptor, you're not actually guaranteed to clear everything. This gives you a full clear.
I'll give you a reason to go for the Tenko instead. Is that Jean is a fantastic card against Silva and Orcus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gives you ways to answer those stealth followers. But you do have the Themis that you can fall back on, and if your opponent does play a Silva, you can sort of safely fall back on that Heavenly Knight to protect you from it. Something like Lococo could mess that up, but you've already seen one of them.
That's true. That's true. Also, this gives you the board control against Puppet. Once you have board control, they have very few ways to come back. Mostly, the options they have is Lococo. But if they are Lococoing this turn, it means they're only playing 2 drops, and Tenkos are very, very good dealing with it.
So we were talking earlier about how Giant Chimera is able to set up those Flame Destroyers on the Silva turn, and effectively, this Dragon has done the same thing, of working basically like a zero-cost Flame Destroyer, just making it so that you can't actually play the Silva safely.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how teams are playing around it. I remember at the beginning of this expansion, Puppet being this oppressive deck that everyone was complaining about. There's definitely weak points that you can exploit, and there's key turns where you can pressure them enough. And I've learned this from playing the Quest style as well. Some Fairy Dragon play, some Vanara play. You can definitely block those important turns where they want a Silva or they want Noah. They become predictable, and then you can attack it. And that's what teams are doing today. We've been seeing this Puppet Portal struggle a bit in this matchup.
Yeah, and De La Phil finally getting a chance to come down. De La Phil is going to just make it so much harder to get back into this game now. That HP is going to be coming every turn. And have a 4-5 ward for your troubles. Or, as we've already seen, these wards are so difficult for Puppets to deal with. A lot of their game plan revolves around followers that don't actually stick around. These Puppets can't provide lasting value. They try to one-shot kill your opponent. And between wards and healing, it's so much more difficult to actually get that one-shot kill in.
Yeah, the Puppet deck just doesn't have very good resilient followers. They have very strong statted followers. Obviously, followers like Nicholas, Spinaria, for their cost, they are aggressively statted or have a lot of stats back to it. But they don't have resilience. They don't have last word effects. They don't have sticky minions to get that proc effect from Silva consistent. And against control decks, they might struggle, especially healing decks or very defensive ward decks.
Puppets really relies on the damage that they have sticking, and these Haven decks make it so that it's so much more difficult for that damage to actually stick and matter.
Because since they have healing, you'll be able to burst them from the hand. Definitely need to hold the board, and that's very hard.
What was the reason to play Basilius there?
I actually don't know.
It's a bit of a slip up there, I think. Maybe feeling the pressure here, feeling the pressure of the matchup.
Yeah, I believe that was the first mistake we saw. Actually, interesting that they didn't play the Puppet together with it to maybe protect it.
Or just play the Spinaria to at least have 2 bodies to keep something up.
And now it's Very hard. Like a ward blocking a Noah, having your Noah trade into a Heavenly Knight, definitely not what you're doing.
Yeah, and you're even if this word wasn't here, you're still so far off. Your opponent's at 17 HP. It's just so hard to find this damage.
You're essentially trading all the resources you built up into that Heavenly Knight.
Yeah, you can fight through a couple of these wards, but once your opponent gets into this position where it's ward after ward after ward, your puppets just don't have the value to get there.
I think there's no reason to Tempest Purge. Actually, we have a stronger opponent, so maybe a Blackened Scripture, maybe a Delafiel, maybe Hind. There's so many options. White Fang Hind. There's no board space for that though, but there's a lot of the options. They're all very strong.
You could trade your 1/2 in, you could play a Heavenly Knight, you could even Blacken Scripture something. You could have both Heavenly Knights run into this 3/5, or you can have one Heavenly Knight plus the Blacken Scripture run into it.
I definitely like the Blackened Scripture. It's a very strong target. Kill like the 5/2, and I expect to see a Hind here. I believe it's one of the most valuable followers for double Tenko with a Hind. Absolutely strong. Absolutely strong.
Opting to not even attack with it. Why not? Why be aggressive? Show a sign of pacifism.
Showing expertise in the deck. Showing that I have enough damage. I don't even need to trade into you.
It's one less click, you know? Save that energy. Save it for later.
I expect this Noah to actually go face. You have double Noah now. And hold all the puppets. Play one, because why not? You'll have enough anyways. This also might stop the Tenko ping. Actually, no, it doesn't, because the puppet will always disappear first.
With that black diamond plus...
Should have stopped that, yes.
Plus Delafiel or Heavenly Knight. I think it's going to be Heavenly Knight plus White Fang.
I agree, and I think that will be lethal. Because there will be 12 damage, if I'm not mistaken, just from Tenkos. Because it's 4 damage for each heal, and you have access to 3 heals, so that'll be 12 damage.
That is quite a lot of damage coming out from 2 little 5-drop amulets.
And look at them showing expertise. We know damage, we're even going to kill the puppet, even though we don't need to kill the puppet, but why not?
Bang. Bang.
That was 12 damage. Yeah, balanced.
That's a lot of damage.
12. So you play your Noah, right? Costs you 9 mana. Well, I play my early game amulets, and I do as much damage as.
Yeah, those Tenkos built up so much value over the course of that game. They were on the field for how many turns? They weren't played on turn 5 of this game.
They were played on 6 and 7, I believe. Or yeah, maybe 6 and 8. Something like that.
Raindrop saying, I'll go first. And Auto Aim saying, you know, I'll go second.
They have the option. We have to remind our audience, this format, we're able to choose, if you lost the first game, you can choose which, well, which order you play.
So maybe we're seeing teams are cool, just thinking, do we want to run back that portal, or do we want to go and play our Tenkos here?
They already saw this matchup being played. Disaster German played this lineup against that exact lineup too, so they have that expertise, and we saw that the Rootcraft versus the portal is very strong. Then again, they're lacking their Sylvas on point and the more aggressive options from their deck. Let's see.
And it is just the run back on that puppet.
You know what? You win by the sword, die by the sword.
You know,
technically not sword, but portal. You're
gonna have to get that win in eventually if you want to move on to the next round. So It's that interesting mentality. Some players like to just change the deck and just shake off that bad mojo that they had with the game that they just lost, with the deck that they just lost with. Other people just like to bash their head against the wall and just keep playing the same one until they get that win.
This is a weird hand. Again, concentration is going to be important. Also, maybe Golem Assault. You need something to be doing on the early turns. Just have nothing to do. Also, no spells. A spell boost deck. Having no spells is no boost.
This is the kind of hand you're feeling much more comfortable with if you're going second, I think.
Absolutely. That was a good one. I mean, not the best, but something to do.
Do you think you even play it? You might even just want to hold it for next turn, keep the information of what you have concealed. You might even get an extra spell boost.
The option is there, but what if you top that concentration?
Well, then you hold on to the 1-drop and you can get more spell boost in with the lane.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's probably what they're thinking about. I don't think they're going to expose the owl when obviously it's the only source of spell boost they have in their hand.
I don't think you can afford to give up this owl, because if you give up this owl, then I think it's going to be very difficult for you to proc that Abomination Awaken this game.
The Portal side, they don't have a 2-drop. They have the Silva this time, but not the 2-drop. These Portal decks are having trouble curving. We've seen them curve so strongly before, but today it just doesn't seem to be their night.
They're really taking their time with this play. It's a difficult turn.
1 point versus 0.
Yeah, and they opt to just pass. That's always one of those funny plays. Your opponent's thinking and thinking and thinking for a very long time, and then they just decide to pass. Third Giant Chimera is not what you want to have by turn 3.
Wow.
You want your first Giant Chimera. Sometimes the second one is a little more welcome, but the third one it's very clunky.
Yeah, this game is so weird, I don't even know who's ahead. And I usually know. Because they just didn't play any cards. It's all of a sudden, it's turn 3 and we saw nothing. I thought this game was supposed to be about turn 2. If you miss turn 2, you're very far behind. But apparently, if both decks miss it, it's fine.
Yeah, once both players miss their turn 2, then you end up walking into a very interesting type of game of Shadowverse. Because both players are working with their suboptimal hands, and they're trying to figure out the best things they can do with what they had.
Traverse the path and get that win con.
That's a very interesting trade. So I want your... Why do you think they went with that trade?
I think it's because you have to deal with it eventually. Like, you have to kill it anyways. And I don't think they want to, on turn 5, play the necessarily. They don't have a turn 4, so they're probably forced to play the Lococo. They might as well just dodge the removal spell that might have. You saw them pass the first 2 turns. You're thinking that they do have Wind Blasts or Seraphics.
Unfortunately, though, they don't. They don't really have too much of anything going on right now. All they have is that Mysterian knowledge.
Isn't it funny when you see your opponent hold on turn 1, hold on turn 2, and then you're like, I think they have removal spells, and they have absolutely nothing. This just reminds you of how much important information is in a card game, and giving away false information can be very important.
Alright, and Paracelsus is coming just in time. You could even get the Strike Form Golem and trade in the Strike Form Golem. That way you keep something a little bit beefier.
No, this time around I wonder if they trade. I assume so because they want the silver proc. So I think it's just very cost effective to do so.
Yeah, I think if you trade last turn, you have to continue with that same line. It only makes sense. No, this does get answered by Seraphic Blade pretty nicely, and you can follow up with a second Abomination.
I like it. You saw your opponent respect it, just run it in. Essentially gain you 2 cards, right? So why not do it again?
Disaster does have an answer to this Abomination in their hand, though. They do have that Heartless Battle, which will trade pretty well.
Or even Lococo if they want. It's a good option. Saves their Evo.
Leave something on board, too.
Exactly. gains them puppets, but they choose not to. I respect this. They want to keep that proc, and they want to deny the spells from the Rune player. So usually this game plan is the other way around. Usually Rune is denying Silva procs, but in this game we're seeing Disaster exploit the hand of the hand of Raindrop, the Raindrop team, and denying them spell boost. I actually really enjoy this gameplay.
Now, what do you do here? I think you have to pass here again. This is not what you want to be doing as Runecraft here.
I agree. We saw the same situation in the series, and getting that Fate Sand or that Flame Destroyer, they got rewarded later on by getting the Flame Destroyer. So I think it's a similar choice, and I would just pass.
I've tuned into your stream a couple times this week, and I've seen you have some unfortunately similar hands playing Giant Chimera throughout the week.
Yes, it's something you have to just understand, that you're playing such a synergistic deck that once you just draw the Chimeras, or you don't draw the Chimeras, your deck just falls.
Yeah, you need the right tools at the right time for this deck, for your deck to really operate like a well-oiled machine.
It's the story of control decks, right? Whenever you play a control deck, or this is combo / control, because like you have a lot of removal pieces, have like necessarily a combo finisher. I like to look at Chimera like a control finisher more like than a combo, because you're just playing a big fat body that just tries to end the game. So in control decks, you have removal, you have threats, you have card draw. Sometimes when you only draw one of those three, it's really awkward.
How often do you see Runecraft starting turn 7 with only 4 shadows?
Not a lot of times, but then again, how often is it that you see Portalcraft against Rune have 2 Evos by turn 7? No pressure at all applied to the face. It's a very interesting game.
Here they get to copy this puppet, just remove that owl basically for free here, and still get to keep pushing that damage. You think we might even see an evolve on this Spinaria's artifact here?
I would like to. You saw the missile, nothing to be afraid of outside of wind blasts, but if they're wind blasting your token, you're hella happy.
Yeah,
Not
and
only
even playing
does it
out
draw
the
your card pretty. Yeah, I like that a lot. Your board is so strong that like you don't need to respect Flame Destroyers. You're gonna have Lloyd and Victoria. They'll be able to deal with the Flame Destroyer.
So here you're just hoping you can chain things together, and unfortunately you really weren't able to. You do have this Flame Destroyer you can play, and you can evo into that 3/3 if you so desire. You can evolve into the Lococo if you want to. But none of these options really feel good.
I just don't see a way to win. Those Chimeras are extremely small. We see 7 shadows, which means
they're around 9, I think.
Or Owl died, so that's 6 spells plus the 2 boosts from Owl. So that's like 11 damage. That's so small. I just don't see a way to win. If you chain concentrations and Fate Sand, if you're doing concentrations, you're just allowing your opponent to just have a board and kill you.
The way you get this game is by having that Chimera, the first one, hopefully hitting for just a bit of damage, push a couple points damage, and then maybe you can top deck like Insight into another 1-cost spell, so you can at least pump up these giant Chimeras over the course of the next 2 turns while playing them.
Still, that's so many turns. You're not warding. Like any Noah, any Orc is just a game for you.
Yeah, and every turn you're just pushing more and more damage with these Silva things.
procs.
Might even see evolve here.
I like it. Your opponent didn't have a way to deal with it. They just played a 4-mana Fire Embrace to kill your 3/3.
You have this Lloyd up. How are they going to deal with it? With the Lloyd and with your Giant Chimera, you see your opponent's only got... It's concentration just a little late, I think.
This is the miracle. Believe.
No, you can't even go for it. You gotta just clear this board here.
That's gonna be game. Wow, that was a sad Chimera.
Yeah, this was a little painful if you were the Giant Chimera player here.
That was 11 damage from the Chimera. Wow. Very sad. And that'll be 1-1. Turtle Puppet finally gets on the board. Scores 1 for the team.
Alright.
With a very interesting, peculiar playstyle. Remember, no aggression. No targets for spells. Just pure Silva procs. And I did mention this in the previous matchup. Silva on 3 is one of the most important things you can have. Your opponent can play around it. Game. Raindrop and his friends were not. Yes.
Yeah, we saw throughout that game how much damage was pushed because of that Silva.
And Raindrop appears to be choosing. His team appears to be choosing to go first. Again, guys, don't be scared. The audience, don't think they're cheating. In this format, in this tournament, if you lose, you're able to choose which order you want to play in.
It gives the players a little bit more decision to make throughout this format. We already have the players deciding every single turn, having a discussion. Why not have them think just a little bit more throughout the game? Do they really want to go first? Do they really want to go second? And then how can we take advantage of that with what decks we have left?
Also allows for some strategic banning. For instance, maybe you usually ban aggro forest all the time because you're afraid they always go first. Well, if the aggro forest gets the win, you get to decide if you go first or second. You can decide to go first against aggro forest if happy with that scenario. So I believe that it makes for a next level pregame and makes for a better show to watch and play.
Alright, Magic Missile and Concentration is what you have in your hand. You're feeling pretty happy with that. You want to find your Giant Chimera kind of soon, probably want to start charging up a Wind Blast in the near future. But you've got the tools you need, at least for the early game.
For personal experience, this is a heavily favored matchup for Summit. They do need 2 things. You usually want to explore turn 6. From 6 to 8, Rune is very weak, very fragile, and you can exploit that and then ride Heavenly Knights into victory. So keeping those Hinds, those T-times, and Della Fields, if you can get a Hind that opens up T-times, that is a very strong, very hard to deal.
So they're going to think about this for a little bit, but they are going to end up playing this Concentration. There's really no reason not to do it. You want to get those out of your hand as fast as possible for the most part.
Yeah, it's like increases your win rate so much. I've been playing this deck a lot. The fact that you have Concentration on 3, especially on the play, just makes you feel so comfortable.
It lets you start finding those options that you really need to win the game.
It also allows you to know that the thing that happened the last game won't happen again, because this time around you have way more options, way more spell boost.
They have options, but they don't have their Giant Chimera this time.
Nor Rooney, so it's going to be difficult. Win con hand means that possibly that Fate Sand is boosted this turn.
Yeah, last game they had all of the win conditions. In this game, they don't quite have theirs yet. But they still have some time to find it.
I would actually not be surprised to see an Owl. Might help kill something. If that Wind Blast is not big enough, which I assume it isn't, for something they can pre-evo, might actually see an Owl here to that.
Well, the Owl just gets answered by their Evo, right?
Yes, but that's what I mean. If you need that extra damage from the Owl, it depends on the Wind Blast. I assume the Wind Blast is a 1, only has 1 damage, so that means that if they pre-evo something, your Wind Blast won't kill it.
Yeah, right now that Wind Blast came off that Concentration last turn, so it doesn't have any spell boost quite yet.
So it's definitely something they are discussing as a team, trying to see, do we need this new damage? Would they evolve? They probably evolve 2 drops. We have Seraphic for that, so let's just hold on the Owls.
They have 2 Owls. I think they want to just use their 2 Evos on those Owls, if possible.
This is a very strong play, setting up 2 turtles and explode 6. As I mentioned before, 6 is very weak. They don't have access to multiple Fire Embraces, multiple Wind Blasts, very taxing on their mana. They want to be evolving Owls. For sure.
They do have one Wind Blast that will be charged up enough to take care of one of these turtles, and they do have a Fiery Embrace that should be getting close by the time those turtles pop. So maybe they will be able to deal with what's going on here.
I would actually like to see an Evil Dial this turn. It feels bad into that Moriai. You expect the turtles to pop. Your opponent just set them up. We're gonna evolve something or get a hind behind it. So I expect you to need to spell boost that Wind Blast because at the moment it's 2 damage, I believe. Also the Fire Embrace, you need to start lowering the cost a bit because you expect your very strong. If I was on the voice call, I'd be saying, yo guys, how do we kill 2 turtles? How do we kill Hind? How do we kill Rena Evo? We gotta have 3 spells, we gotta do it.
That's something they just need to be prepared for. And pretty soon they need to be prepared for it.
Another option is to go, yeah, I also like this. It's like you're spell boosting twice, but you're not spending though, so I like it as well.
The play ends up being pretty similar. Another way you could have done that to get the most spell boosts in that turn would have been to Magic Owl and then play the Golem. But that just leaves it so that your board gets answered pretty easily. Regardless, your board is going to be answered.
I actually like Turtle Snow White Evo Globe.
Do you like Snow White Evo?
It gains you the turtles, because what I'm thinking is it's either that or the White Hind Evo, because there's no reason to go for the Black Hind Evo.
Yeah, I was thinking about the White Hind Evo. It sets up a very, very resilient board. It's a lot of stats.
Yeah, the thing with the Snow White that I was thinking is that it allows you to play the second turtle, and then you can go White Hind or Globe Black Hind or White Diamond Black Hind, because again your hand doesn't have Summit Temples, so and Heavenly Knights. You want to draw a couple.
So they ended up going for the Dark Hind, not the Light Hind, just to evolve the turtle instead of the Light Hind. So I guess this leaves up a Bane, but I don't think it changes too much here.
Yeah, it's the same amount of stats. Usually the Bane, you don't want to buff the Bane minion because it already pulls hard. So it's a very smart choice as well.
That missile is exactly what they were looking for there. That's going to allow this Magic Owl to evo right over that turtle.
Not only that, they'll have enough spell boost for even Fate Sand if they choose to. They can go Wind Blast, Fate Sand, Owl.
I think they can go Owl, Fate Sand, Wind Blast. Oh, no, they can't. They can't.
I think that Wind Blast was 5 damage, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong.
It definitely is now.
Yeah, now I think it's 7 damage even. The 8 now? Still counting.
Fire Embrace.
Yeah, 8 damage, right? Yeah, 8 damage. So I don't like this order. It didn't end up punishing them because they didn't do any spell boost, but it was a slight bit mistake of they're there. If they went for Wind Blast first, they would have been able to Fate Sand before the Owl. But it doesn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't change much. Because again, they didn't get any spell boost cards from Fate Sand.
This is a pretty early 7/7. It's pretty dangerous, but there is going to be the Lorana Fist plus that Black Inscription to clean up everything that's going on here.
But you're passing initiative. Doesn't feel good.
You're passing initiative into your opponent's Snowman King. This is a card that you don't always see. You don't always see the rune list decide opt to play it. This is only a one of here, but it's going to be pretty strong here, getting a whole bunch of storming snowmen here.
I agree with you. I expect them to storm. Like, there's no reason to go with board. Interesting choosing to pass on. I guess they expect a Jean, but I'd be happy to see a Jean. On the other hand, there's no Chimera. We forgot about that.
Yeah, they're going for that Prophecy of Doom so they can finally get a win condition, and as soon as they get it, that's when they find their giant Chimera, getting a little bit punished there.
It's still okay, because even though you found the Chimera, it's not going to be... You need that extra damage. The Chimera is so small at this point that you definitely need the Prophecy of Doom.
So you don't have your summit temples yet. So you can't start going down this storm path quite yet. So what do you do here? You can play your tea time and you can evolve it. That'll let you push 3 face damage and also remove this Rooney.
I think you're gonna go for that. Maybe get a summit temple, or next turn they go for either. I mentioned before, turns 7 to 8, 6, 7, 8 are not very strong for. They usually want to play a flame destroyer that turn, but outside of that, you can build a very strong board.
Yeah, there isn't a great answer to what's going on here. You can play your Snowman King if you want. You can trade in all of the Stormers, but that doesn't feel good. You can evolve your Magic Owl to remove this. Or maybe you can pop that Mysterian Knowledge and get a second Mysterian Missile and use both of those, but that feels like you're spending a lot of resources to deal with this 5/4.
For all of your options, Mysterian Knowledge is definitely the first thing to play because you always have the freedom to do so. And you get that information. So I think that opening that Mysterian Knowledge is definitely the first step.
What about play Snowman King? You evolve the Snowman King over, and then you have a bunch of wards. Do you think that's good?
I would again go for the Storm because my Chimera is not big enough, and the difference between the wards and the Storm is very minimum when there's Jean in the deck. The wards would be relevant against Heavenly Knight, but again, if they're playing Heavenly Knight, your wards are not that bad against either.
Getting the Mysterian Missile. They should have started with that, as you were saying earlier. I think there you're definitely looking for something like the Mysterian Circle, just to put up a little bit of a ward, leave something on the board.
It's a very strong. And they're getting a bit punished for not playing the Snowman King. Imagine they had played the Snowman King, right? They would have the turn where they had initiative, they chose to play the Rooney. If they had played the Snowman King, they would have such a strong.
Yeah, now you're kind of looking at this board and thinking, what do I do about this? It's pretty big. You do have your 2 Mysterian Missiles, you can clear off the turtle like that. And then you also have that Fire Embrace to clear off the big ward. But you're not quite developing anything again. You're not having a chance to leave anything on the board yourself.
Yeah, and then now you have to expect a chain of very big, chain of Heavenly Knights, Delafields, Heavenly Knight, another Ether possibly. It's like there's a train, Garuda, it's a very beefy minion to deal with, and you don't have enough Fire Embraces for all of that.
That's another mistake we see there. They actually decided to play the Fire Embrace first. If they played the Fate's Hand, they would have gotten 1 extra spell boost there.
Yeah, it's the end of the day / night. So we're starting to see a bit of sloppy play, perhaps from both players. Basileos as well from both teams. Sorry. We have to keep in mind that it's been about 5 to 6 hours of tournament play, and sometimes playing as a team is actually more taxing too, because you're discussing a lot of plays that are actually not being played, but you still need to discuss them.
So you have your Giant Chimera, but it's not going to deal with this board. It's way too beefy. So what do you do here? You can start warding up. You want to get this Prophecy started as soon as possible.
But I just don't see a way to start the Prophecy and still have that it's enough to deal with the threat. I think you might have to Chimera and just... Your opponent doesn't have a way to refill with strong followers. But the problem is that Chimera might not even be enough. Like, there's a lot of help. 17.
I don't think this Chimera is too much over 10 here.
I would have to agree. Like, let's see, 3, 6, 12. Wow, it's not a lot.
This leaves you with the 6/6, but
call for desperate needs.
Yeah, this isn't what you want to be doing here. Now you've given up your win condition effectively, and you need to just figure out how you're going to keep controlling this board without falling behind. I can't help but think that turn where they decided to not play the Snowman King could have really affected this game.
Definitely feels that way, right? I mean, can't blame them. They didn't have a win con, as you mentioned. But like, sometimes you just have to trust your deck. You can look ahead and be like, wait, even if I get this Prophecy of Doom, what turn can I play it? Oh, turn 12, 13, 14? Do I even have enough time for all that? Definitely need the Doom, but I feel like the board state is more, perhaps.
Yeah, as soon as they opted to not play the Snowman King, they just kind of lost the board, and they haven't been able to get back on since then because their hand just didn't allow for it. With nothing like a Fiery Embrace here to help take care of the 7/7, things are looking pretty desperate.
There's just too many threats. This is a natural prey for Summit Temple, is that control decks. Summit Temple actually deals well with control decks because it's just so many threats, and 1-for-1 removal just doesn't deal with it because they have Ether. Sometimes your removal, you need to use 2 spells. We played PDK, and it's another example of a very hard matchup for PDK. It's just so many stats on the board. The UPDKs are just tickling. It's like Brambles too just seems ineffective against decks. Just goes over the top and very hard to fight back. You have to go under them or go extremely value oriented so you can kill every threat.
And that's going to be the game. Teams Are Cool is going to pick up that match. They're going to be going to the grand finals where they're going to be facing off against Team Moof. If they're going to want to win this, they're going to have to get that win and then win through a bracket reset.
Look at that. Insta exit the room. They're like, we're ready. Let's do this. We just want to go.
They want to get into that fight.